This is Talk Memphis with Ken, Bev, and Andrew on NewsTalk FM 98.9 WKIM.
I'm on my way to glory land. I shall not be moved. On my way to glory.
How good is that, huh? Doesn't get any better than that. Joining us in studio, it's our pleasure to welcome you to Talk Memphis. Living legend gets thrown out there a lot, but I'm going to throw that at this gentleman because he deserves it. Yeah. W.S. Fluke Holland has joined us, longtime drummer for Johnny Cash, and played with Elvis, played with Carl Perkins. Sir, it is a pleasure to have you in studio with us.
Well, it is my pleasure to be here.
There is so many questions to ask you. I don't know where to start, Bev. Go ahead and take it away. You got the first one.
So now, is my understanding, one of the best trivia questions that I ever used was the fact that Johnny Cash only had how many drummers? And the answer was one.
He had one.
And that was you, sir?
That was me.
So now, how did you start out? And I believe your first association was with a boy from Jackson.
Carl Perkins.
How did you meet Carl?
Carl and his two brothers and me lived in the same little town over next door to Jackson, Tennessee, called Bemis, Tennessee. And in late 1954, I was out of high school and had a job working at Lawrence Company, working on air conditioners. Air conditioning was just beginning to happen. I didn't even ever think about being in the music business at all. I didn't play any kind of instrument. Fact of business, I sold the radio out of my car because I couldn't even play it. And Carl Perkins and his two brothers had a little band that's playing the clubs around Jackson. And I would go to where they were playing. I'd met them and knew them. We became good friends. And Carl's younger brother played upright bass. And for some reason, I don't know why, there's so many things happened in my life that kind of created the name Fluke, W.S. Fluke Holland. When I did a website, it had to be wsflukeholland.com. But some of the up-tempo songs, Carl mostly did Hank Williams songs back then. And for some reason, I'd walk up beside of Clayton, who played the bass, and just keep time on the side of the bass, like an old song called Hank Williams song, Hey, Hey, Good Looking, just, and never thought about being in the music business, so.
You just did it natural.
Now, one Saturday night, Carl said to me, I was there when they was packing up, he said, we got an appointment with Sam Phillips Thursday morning. Borrow some drums and go with us. I said,
borrow some drums?
What do you mean, borrow? I said, man, I can't play drums. He said, you keep time on that bass like that, you can play drums. Now, this is one of the Fluke things. I went the next day, found a fellow that I'd heard of had some drums, a boy named Slick Glisson, worked for an amusement company, and I told him what I wanted, and he said, W.S., you can't play. I said, if you let me borrow your drums, I'll be playing by Thursday. He let me have them. I went out to my mom's house, set them. This is the reason I set them up backwards with the hi-hat on the wrong side. I never had seen a drum set up.
So you just set it up whatever way you wanted.
Yeah, the way it felt good to me. Thursday morning, we get up, get in my car, drive over to Memphis, meet Sam Phillips, and went in and did a song called Movie Mag. I bet you never heard it.
No, I hadn't.
It was the first record we recorded at Sun Records that day. Sam liked what he heard. Then we went back later and recorded the Blue Suede Shoes. And then that was the first record that became number one in all the charts and the first million seller on Sun, and it was the beginning of rock and roll.
You were just born to play the drums then, weren't you?
Mm-hmm. So then I had to make a choice to quit the air conditioning business and be in the music business. So I figured out later that I believe playing in a band was cooler than working on air conditioning.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Way cooler. Did you guys know what kind of magic you had when you finished recording Blue Suede Shoes?
No. The $1 Million Quartet thing, that's the famous now that they made the Broadway play. Now what happened that night, nobody planned anything. Nobody had any idea it was going to happen. But see, that was in late 56. So now, I go back to middle of 54 is when Elvis and Scotty and Bill started. Then Carl and his three brothers and me came over in late 54. Now, all it was is 1955, and then here comes the rest of the Sun group. You know, like John Cash, Roy Orbison, Jerry Lee, the whole Sun group. It started in 1955, and that's when we all toured together. See, Sam Phillips and a disc jockey named Bob Neal started a little booking agent called Stars Incorporated, booking the Sun artists, and that's where all the groups toured. Hey, there was some times we got all the way to Texarkana, Arkansas on some tours.
Wow.
We was in the big time. And
just all traveling together.
Yeah. Now, then we were back in the studio to record the release after Blue Suede Shoes. See, called, what was the name of it?
Now, you were there. I can't remember. I wasn't there. So I'm going to put that on
Matchbox.
you. Matchbox. Okay.
And now, the reason Jerry Lee was there, Sam hired him to play piano with us. And all at once, John walked in, and Elvis walked in, and they heard we were in town. So they just dropped by to say, hello, because we hadn't seen each other in a couple of months maybe. And when that happened, it just turned into a jam session. And the boy that was running the recorder, Jack Clement, he didn't think anything about it. Elvis sat down on the piano stool there, and they just mostly gospel songs. And Jack just turned on the recorder and left, went next door to the Taylor Cafe and got him a hamburger. He didn't think anything about it.
He said, these boys will be going on for a while. I need to just pop out of here for a little.
Now, it's really weird to what Sam did think to call a photographer. If he hadn't thought to call a photographer, it would have never happened, And that one or two pictures they made. And really nobody thought anything about it that night. People ask me now, said, man, what was it like to be in the room with all those big stars? I said, hey, there was no big stars. We didn't think about anybody being a big star. It was just another record session, and it wasn't a big deal until it became history. It's a big deal now. And I kind of kidded Sam years later when the record companies wanted to release something, and it was beginning to be a famous session. I said, man, if you'd have just thought and panned that camera around about 3 feet, I would have been in that picture. Then it really would have been famous.
You'd have done something for him, huh?
Yeah.
Our guest here on Talk Memphis, W.S. Fluke Holland, who legendary drummer.
I just have to ask, with Johnny Cash, his music has meant a lot to me in life. What was it like playing with him? Was he the everyday person that people say he was? The man in black?
Exactly. John Cash, to me, with all the respect, and he was never like a real big superstar to me. Mm-hmm. He was just like that good old country Arkansas boy, and even in the movie, I wanted to see him I wanted to see a lot of the good old Arkansas country boy that we knew, but they went the other route with it, and I think maybe they thought it would make more money if they kind of added a little bit of the drug days in it. But that's another thing about kind of the reason I got the name Fluke. Now, at the end of the 50s, in 1960s, I thought it was all over with me. I was going to retire in 1960. Sam Phillips had made all the money he wanted to make. Seemed like everything was over at Sun Records. Elvis had gone to RCA, and Carl had gone to Columbia, and John had gone to Columbia. And I'd done spent all the money I'd made, and it was 1960, and Joyce and me was getting married. And one day, John called, and he said, I need you to go with me to play a show in New York and one in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And I told him, I said, I can't go. I'm fixing to go to work with a real job, so I'll have a paycheck every week.
You're going to get back into air conditioning, weren't you?
Yeah, but I'm
Still going good.
I called the guy, and I said, I need to wait a couple of weeks. So I called John back and said, hey, I'll go with you. And I went those 2 weeks, and it lasted almost 40 years.
Wow.
So
That was a fluke.
Another fluke thing. Then at the end of the 40 years, I was going to retire again. In 97, when John didn't feel like working anymore, I said, well, I'll retire again, and maybe the boys down at VFW will let me play with them on Saturday night. And they made the movie, Walk the Line.
Mm-hmm.
That created a situation so people want to see somebody that was in the Johnny Cash band, and they don't even care if it's an old white-haired guy.
Did you have fun doing the movie?
Oh, unreal.
Yeah.
And, of course, that was another, on all the concerts we do with my band now, and I tell a story about the movie that people always ask about it, and I say, as great as it was, and as entertaining as it was, you almost didn't get to see it. It almost didn't happen. There was they'd like to have never found anybody to play my part as pretty as I was in 1955.
Oh, I'll bet.
65.
They had a hard time, didn't they?
Do you remember those great songs with Johnny Cash and the Tennessee Two?
Oh, yeah.
The early stuff when you guys had your own individual sound.
Yeah.
No matter where you were, you would know that was Johnny Cash.
Yeah, and that's another thing we didn't really realize what would happen. The boy that made that so famous was a boy named Luther Perkins, no kin to Carl Perkins. But that guitar style that Luther had is what made that sound like it did. Then, see, John didn't have drums until 1960. The boy playing the bass kind of made the drum beat on the upright bass neck. Then in 1960, when I joined them, that was the beginning of the Tennessee Three. And
wow.
And of course, we all through the years, and we didn't realize that it was so different, and it would ever be any kind of famous sound. And now that's a pretty big deal now, the Tennessee Three sound, and that's amazing to me.
Yeah, you were part of a lot of history, and I'll tell you what, sir. Thanks for stopping by and visiting with us a little bit. We would love to do this again sometime. I mean, we could do hours, because the music in this town was just so rich, and you were just part of all that history.
Yeah.
Well, let me know. I tell you, now I am having so much fun. I had so much fun for many, many years traveling around the world with Johnny Cash, and now I'm traveling around the world with Cambria, and telling all the girls, if you don't have a Cambria kitchen, your kitchen is not as pretty as it can be. So check on CambriaUSA.com and get a Cambria kitchen.
I'd let you show me around a kitchen or two.
Well, let me tell you one other thing I've done right quick. My band member just wrote a song called Memories, and it's about what happened on that session. And we finished it a couple of days ago, and when I come back, we'll play it.
Okay.
That's a deal.
That sounds great.
We will do that. W.S. Fluke, Holland, our guest here on Talk Memphis. Sir, you have a good one, all right?
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure to have you on the program. Man, we could go a long time.
Oh, really?
Yes, we could.
It was a pleasure to have him aboard.
Keeping it Memphis. This is Talk Memphis with Ken, Bev, and Andrew on NewsTalk FM 98.9.